In this Matrix 9 tutorial, we'd like to speak about sweep 1 with history. The very first thing we're going to do is go to our main toolbar, and within our main toolbar we'll find the ring rail tool. Select that and it will open up the tool down the bottom here on the left hand side. You can see that I have British sizes selected, and you can change that by clicking on the name Britain, which will bring up a window showing different ring rail region types such as USA, British, Japanese, etc. You also have a section here for custom ring sizes, and if we select that, you can select in millimeters or inches and diameter or circumference. This is particularly handy if you're doing a bangle and you needed an inside diameter of say 55 millimeters. You could simply select diameter and hit set region. I'm going to stay with British and set the region for that. The next thing we're going to do is select from our range of finger sizes, and they range from a size A through to a Z plus 7.5. I'm going to stick with the size M. We're going to select the green button here, and that will place our ring rail out into our workspace. You'll notice that the ring rail is highlighted pink. If we select anywhere outside and click, then that will go back to its natural color, the layer color, which is on our finger layer here. If we right click this particular color, we can select it. We can also select it by dragging from right to left, and also region selecting from left to right. If you're region selecting, the entire object must be within that square in order for it to highlight. If you only select part, then nothing will highlight, only whatever happens to be within that square. To move to the next part of the lesson, we need to select our ring rail, and we're going to select either the F6 key on your keyboard or your center mouse button. By selecting one of those options, a series of options will show of everything that you can do with this particular highlighted item. Now, different highlighted items will have different options. For example, gemstones will have different options to a ring rail. What we want to do is we want to add a profile. So we're going to select the Add Profile button, and that will give us a generic half round profile at the base of the ring rail. Let's expand the perspective viewport. And you can see we have our handles on screen here. As you roll your mouse across each handle, the handle will highlight red when it is active. We can simply select the width, hold down the left mouse button, and hold down Shift to engage increments of 0.1 of a mil. Take that down to 5 mil, and then take the height from 5 millimeters down to say 1.4. And then when you're happy with that, we can hit enter. The next thing we can do is select our ring rail so that it's highlighted pink. Hit your F6 or center mouse button and go down to the option for sweep 1 with history. When you've selected that, the command line up the top here will ask you what to do next. Select profile, which is our yellow profile here, and then hit enter when done. That will give us our ring. The cool thing about this is that we can select our highlighted profile, our yellow profile, and highlight it. Hit F6 or your center mouse button again and go to MSR. MSR stands for Move, Scale and Rotate. So when we click on this, then you'll notice that our handles will come back. And we can change anything about this particular piece because we've used sweep 1 with history. So we can increase and decrease the height and width, and it will automatically sweep for us. We can also change that profile by selecting the profile, F6 or your center mouse button and MSR, and select the little half round icon or handle. And you'll see that we have a catalogue of different profiles that you can use. So we can select, say, this step profile here. and then hit enter. And that will resweep with that particular profile as well. Again, you can job bag this and bring this out of job bags, MSR, adjust as you see fit until you and your customer are happy. You'll also notice that you have control on the left hand side of the screen here. So if you didn't really want to use your handles and wanted to use these sliders, you certainly could. Simply select the profile, F6 and MSR, and then you can adjust using these sliders here as well. You can also change the profile by clicking in the Edge Profile window, which will open up your catalog or database of profiles. Double click and resweep. Select your profile, F6, MSR, and adjust accordingly. Now let's talk about mirroring the profiles. We're going to delete this green surface. We're going to select our profile at the base, F6 and MSR to bring back our handles. And now I want to go into the command line and select Add and also Mirror. You'll see in the middle of the profile we have a little ball called the Position on Curve. I'm going to drag that up to where I want, and you'll notice that it duplicates that particular profile. And we can make adjustments to this profile if we wish. So take the width down, change the height, we can even change the profile itself. Hit enter. Select the bottom profile, F6 and MSR, and we can do the same thing there. Adjust the width, adjust the height, and hit enter. To sweep these, we simply select our ring rail first so that it's highlighted pink, F6, and go down to our sweep 1 with history, and then follow the command line. Select your profiles in the direction that the arrows are pointing. So 1, 2, and 3. And then hit enter when you're done. And that will sweep this shank here for you. We can select the profile down the bottom here, F6 and MSR, and change that profile by clicking on the little half round handle to something else and hit enter. And you can keep making adjustments simply by selecting your profiles, F6, MSR, and adjust accordingly. If you wanted to view this in different shading modes, we can simply come across to the display menu and select a different shading mode. So for example, our plastic will give us that plastic look here. We have a ghosted look, which is particularly handy if you need to be able to see through the item. Artistic, which will give you a drawn look to the piece, and many more. If we select the small arrow at the bottom of the render menu there, you can see we have quite a few different options that you can change to give a different look. Let's switch back to shaded mode, and let's talk further about selecting parts of the model itself. This is particularly handy when it comes to job bagging. If we were to just simply region select and select just this area here, then the only thing that we'll select is whatever happens to be fully in that rectangle there. In this case, it will be this profile. You'll note that the rest of the ring did not highlight, neither did these other profiles or the ring rail, for example. And the reason for that is they weren't fully in that square. In this instance here, only the two profiles will highlight. And this is a particularly handy tool when it comes to selecting just a section of the design when you don't need the entire thing selected. If we go from right to left and simply just select everything, then you'll note that everything will highlight. However, if we were to only select this area here, then yes, everything including the two top profiles, the ring rail and the surface itself will highlight, but the profile, the yellow profile down the bottom, won't. To give you an example, if we select this and then simply hide, you'll notice that the profile down the bottom did not get selected. And that's pretty important. You want to make sure that when you're job bagging, particularly when you're wanting to use history, that everything is selected before you put it into a job bag. Let's talk about open sweeping now. So we're going to bring out a ring rail again. Go to our main toolbar and select our ring rail option. A size M will be fine for this. And then click on the green button. With the ring rail highlighted, we're going to hit F6 and add a profile. And that will add a profile down the bottom here. I'll leave this particular profile. I'm going to adjust the width down to say 2.5 mm and the height down to say 1.4. Before I hit enter, I want to go up to the command line and select add and mirror and drag my position ball to about there and make adjustments. We'll adjust the width to 4.5 and the thickness to 2 mm and then hit enter. Now it comes time to sweep. In order to sweep, we're simply going to select our ring rail, F6 and go down to sweep 1 with history. But before we start selecting our profiles, we want to come up to the command line, and where it says closed equals yes, we want to click on that until it says closed equals no. And now that it says that, we can now select our profiles. So select our profiles in the direction of the arrows, so 1, 2 and 3, and then hit enter. You'll notice that we now have an open ring rail, and this is particularly handy if you're going to be creating a setting for the center here and not just a wedding ring. Now, one thing to note, if we select our ring rail, F6 and go to sweep 1 with history, closed equals no, if we were to start from say the bottom here, 1, 2 and 3, then the start of the sweep will be from the first profile that we selected. So if we hit enter, that means that this area here will be open, which is okay if you're wanting to have something there, but generally speaking, most designs have the settings at the top. So just bear that in mind. So we'll simply delete that, select our ring rail, F6, sweep 1 with history, closed equals no, and select our profiles in the direction that the arrows are pointing, and then simply hit enter. You'll notice that this particular ring is open and we can see right through it. This is what we call an open poly surface. In order to be able to 3D print this, it must be a solid, or what we call a closed poly surface, and watertight. There are two ways we can go about doing this. The first way is we can select the actual ring itself and go to our purple solid menu and simply hit cap planar. When we do that and deselect it, we can see that it's created two caps, and this item is now considered a closed poly surface or completely watertight. You should be able to 3D print this without any issue at all. Another way of closing this particular open poly surface and finishing off the design a little bit nicer is selecting one of the profiles, F6, and go down to profile cap. What this is going to do is create a nice cap on the end of this particular shank, and you've got a handle here that we can adjust, which finishes that off nicely. Bear in mind that the further out you take this, it will not follow the ring rail, so be careful with that. Something like 0.7 or so will do for this particular example, and when we're finished, hit enter. We can do the same for the opposite side. Select our profile, F6, profile cap, and if we want exactly the same as the other side, simply come up to the command line and click on flip twice, and then hit enter. That distance there will be identical to the distance over here. Now these three items are actually still individual surfaces, and it's still an open poly surface because it's not been closed or joined. The advantage of this is that if you were to job bag this and then bring it out at any stage, you can still select a profile, F6 MSR, and make adjustments to it. So if we wanted to decrease the width and change the actual profile to something else, so this step profile, and then hit enter, then it will re-sweep those particular profiles and also include the end caps here as well. Once you have selected everything and you're ready for it to be one watertight piece, simply go to our main toolbar and click on the join tool, and that will join those up into one closed poly surface. So when you select just one of the profile caps, you'll see that the entire thing selects because it's one closed poly surface. If we were to try to select a profile and F6 MSR and adjust, we can still adjust the profile, but nothing will sweep. We've actually broken our history command by joining it all up. So that's really important to remember. It's always a really good idea to make sure that you job bag before you join anything in case you need to go back and make changes to it. I hope this helps.